graders, welcome to your fifth lesson. In our fifth lesson, we're going to be talking about percent of change. So we're going to solve problems that involve percent of increase and percent of decrease. Our standards for today are 7th grade ratios and proportions standard number 3 and 7th grade equivalent expression standard number 3. Let's go ahead and start this lesson. For percent of change, we need to understand what it is. A percent of change is a ratio that compares the change of one quantity to the change in the original amount. So what's happening is when one thing changes based on what it originally started as. So in percent of change, we have this equation here. And the percent of change equation is when we take the new amount minus the old amount, because that's the number it changed by. And then we take that and we divide it by the old amount, we'll see what percentage it changed by as a decimal. So what we got to do is we got to take our answer and we got to multiply that by 100. So to find percent of change, we take the new number minus the old, solve that piece, divide it by the old, take that answer, which is a decimal, and multiply by 100, and that'll tell us our percent. If our percent is positive, that's a percent of increase, which means that it changed by that percent going up. If our percent is negative, that's a percent of decrease, which means it changed by that percent going down. So we're going to use this equation to solve some problems. Make sure you pay attention, ask some questions, and we'll be good to go. For our first example, we're going to be looking at this question here. It says, last year, 2,376 people attended the rodeo. This year, attendance was 2,950. What was the percent of change in attendance to the nearest whole percent? So that's what we're going to be figuring out in this problem. Now right here, I have the percent of change equation. New minus old divided by old times 100. And this is one of those sections that you're definitely going to want to use a calculator, so let me grab mine. And we're going to go ahead and write down our percent of change equation with the numbers that we see in the problem. Well, last year, that's old. Last year is something that's old. So we have 2,376. That's an old number. This year, 2,950. So 2,950 is our newer information. So if we're doing the equation, we take 2,950, because that's the new, subtract the old, and the old number was 2,376. We're going to divide that by our old number, which is 2,376. So before we actually do this, we have to first solve the top, then divide it by the bottom. So 2,950 minus 2,376. So this right here is actually equal to 574 divided by 2,376. So now what we're going to do is we're actually going to take the top number, divide by the bottom. So when we looked at the original percent of change equation, you notice that the top was inside parentheses. That means you have to solve that first. So we solve the top, there's our answer. For example 2, we're going to talk about George. George's grade on his first math exam was 94, so George did really awesome on his first exam. His grade on his second exam was 86, a little bit lower. What was his percent of change in grades to the nearest whole percent? So we're going to figure out what his percent of change was based on the grades that he got. Now, hopefully you're understanding that he went from a 94 on his first one to an 86 on the second one, so it's actually going to be a percent of decrease. Our job is to figure out what percent of decrease he actually had. So what we do is we take the newest number, which is his newest quiz, 86. We minus the older quiz. The older quiz is 94. So we take 86 minus 94. I'm going to type that in my calculator. 86 minus 94. And I get negative 8. And we're going to divide this answer right here, new minus old, divides by the old score. The old score was 94. So we actually have a negative 8, and we're going to divide it by 94. So negative 8 divided by 94. If we type that in our calculator, we get 0.085. And you want to go 3 decimal spots. So 0.085, and it's actually a negative. And it should be a negative because the amount that he got went down. So now we take this decimal here, 0.085. We times it by 100, and we get 8.5. And if we're supposed to round to the nearest whole percent, we're actually going to round that 8.5 up to 9. So he had a 9% decrease overall. That's his percent of change. His score changed by about 9% and decrease. So that's our answer to this problem. All right, so we looked at some word problems. Now we're actually going to look at some actual problems that say this number and that number. And we're just going to find the percent of change and tell whether or not it's an increase and a decrease. So we're going to do about 3 more examples, and you guys are done for a day. All right, so for example 3, we got an original amount and we got a new amount. And our job is to find the percent of change. So we're going to round this as percent of increase or percent of decrease, and we're going to round it to nearest whole percent. So we're going to use these numbers here to find a percent of change. Our percent of change has been this equation the entire time. The new number minus the old number divided by the old number. We take the decimal, we times it by 100. So in this problem here, the new number is 136. We subtract the original number, which is 160. So we're going to figure out what this number is first. 136 minus 160. This is equal to negative 24. Now, new minus old divided by the old, which is 160. So we're actually taking a negative 24 and dividing it by 160. And if you divide that, you get a negative 0.15, which means that it's a negative percentage. Well, all we got to do is times that decimal by 100, and we have a negative 15%. So this is a decrease because it's negative. So it's a percentage of decrease. So that's our answer to this problem. It went down by 15%. We took the new number minus the old number, divided by the old, take the decimal, times 100. There's our answer. Let's do 2 more problems and you guys are done for a day. In example 5, we're going to look at something that deals with decimals. Decimals are treated the same way. It doesn't matter. We can still find their percent of change. All we do is take our new number minus our old. So we have 10.5 is the new number. 10.5 minus 7.7. We're going to go ahead and subtract those. Type them in the calculator. 10.5 minus 7.7. This is equal to 2.8. And we're going to divide that by the original. And the original was 7.7. So we're really figuring out what 2.8 divided by 7.7 is. Type that in my calculator and I get 0.363. Again, go 3 decimal places. Once we have our decimal here, we take that decimal, we multiply by 100. So 0.363 times 100. And I get 36.3. And it says round to the nearest whole percent. So we're going to call it 36. So this is a 36%. And if we look at the numbers, it went from 7.7 to 10.5. So it's an increase. So in this lesson, it's not only important to find the percent of change, but it's also important to tell if that percent of change is a percent of increase or a percent of decrease. So make sure, even after you get your percent, that you tell me if it's an increase or a decrease. An increase means your percent of change went up, or a decrease means your percent of change went down. And usually you can see that by even just looking at your numbers. If it went from 7.7 to 10.5, it went up, so that's an increase. If it was the opposite, it would go down, and that's a decrease. Let's do 1 more problem, and you guys are done for today. For our final example, which is example 5, we're going to find the percent of change between 9.6 and 5.2. I'm going to make sure that you guys can see the decimals are right there. So 9.6, 5.2. Now, if you're looking at these, you should be able to tell without even doing the math if it's an increase or a decrease. 9.6 was the original, and it went to 5.2. That's a decrease. It went down. So we're going to take the new number, which is 5.2. We're going to subtract 9.6. So 5.2 minus 9.6. And I get it equals a negative 4.4. We're going to divide that by the original amount. So we're going to divide it by 9.6, divided by 9.6. And if you divide that by 9.6, you get a negative 0.458. So this 8 is going to make that 5 change to a 6. So it's actually a negative 0.46. We times this by 100. And if you times it by 100, you get a negative 46%. And since it's negative, that is a percent of decrease. So it went down by 46%. It's a decrease. That's it for today's lesson. Remember that percentage change when we take the new number minus the old. We divide it by the old. Once we have our decimal, we take our decimal and multiply by 100. So I hope you guys are getting this video. Make sure you like this, smash that notification bell, and if you haven't subscribed yet, subscribe so you get notifications anytime I post these videos for you. You guys did awesome, and you guys have a great weekend.